It has been 45 days, 45 long days since 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie vanished from her home in Tucson, Arizona. No one saw her leave. No one saw her get taken. And still, there are no answers. Her family is desperate. Her community is frightened. And authorities are admitting something that no one wants to hear. This case is getting much harder. Much harder. Nancy Guthrie was more than just a name on a missing persons report. She was a grandmother, a mother, a friend, a woman who had lived a full life and brought joy to those around her. But on February 1st, 2026, all of that changed. One day she was here, the next, she was gone. The home she had known and loved became a crime scene. Her disappearance sent shockwaves not just through her family, but across a nation watching in disbelief. And how does an elderly woman vanish from her home without a trace? Who could be behind this? And why Nancy Guthrie? Authorities immediately launched a search. Officers scoured the neighborhood, spoke to neighbors, and combed through any evidence they could find. The media shared her story. Photos of Nancy, smiling and vibrant, were posted across social media, and her daughter, Savannah Guthrie, made public appeals for anyone with information to come forward. For days, it seemed like hope was alive. Tips came in, leads were followed. But as weeks turned into more weeks, those leads began to dry up. The investigation slowed, frustration mounted, and fear settled over those who loved Nancy most. Retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent Lance Leasing commented on the difficulty of such investigations, and he said that after so much time without meaningful leads, cases like Nancy's become incredibly hard to solve. It becomes much harder to keep the investigation going, keep it current, and fight for new leads, Leasing said. Imagine the challenge, working tirelessly, day after day, sifting through evidence, questioning witnesses, and yet finding no answers. Every day that passes, the puzzle becomes more complex. Investigators are now looking back at surveillance footage from the weeks before Nancy's disappearance. Specifically, footage from January 11th and January 24th, as well as January 31st, the day before she was last seen, has drawn their focus. Authorities believe these videos may hold the key to unraveling what happened. One chilling clip shows a masked figure at Nancy's front door in the early hours of February 1st. Average build, and carrying a backpack, possibly armed. Who was this person? Why did they come to Nancy's home? And could they be the same person who is responsible for her disappearance? The thought of someone lurking outside, planning, watching, and then striking is enough to send chills through anyone's spine. Every second of surveillance footage is being analyzed with painstaking detail. Every frame could hold the single clue that finally leads to Nancy. Investigators must consider every possibility, from strangers to those closest to her. They examine DNA, fingerprints, and timelines. But as each day passes, the pressure mounts. The clock is ticking, and every hour without answers increases the fear and uncertainty that Nancy's family must endure. Savannah Guthrie, her daughter, has endured not only the horror of her mother's disappearance, but also the added burden of public speculation. Some media reports suggested that her brother-in-law, Tommaso Cioni, might have been involved. Savannah has been described as livid over these claims, insisting she has no suspicion of him or her family. But the damage of false accusations cannot be underestimated. Families in such cases often suffer twice, once from the loss of a loved one, and again from the weight of suspicion and rumors that circulate publicly. It is a reminder of the human cost behind every missing persons case. While the family deals with heartbreak and media scrutiny, the law enforcement side of the story has its own challenges. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos has faced intense criticism, as some residents and officials argue that errors early in the investigation may have slowed the search for Nancy. Reports suggest that the crime scene may have been released prematurely, that a thermal imaging search plane was delayed by 3 hours, and that key DNA evidence was sent to a private lab instead of the FBI's Quantico lab. These alleged missteps have led to calls for his recall, a petition that has gathered both attention and controversy. The community is angry. The frustration is palpable. People are asking, could Nancy have been found sooner if these mistakes hadn't happened? Amidst all this, there is a darker warning from law enforcement experts. Former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer has cautioned that Nancy's abductor may still be on the streets and that this individual could strike again. She said, "There is a kidnapper, at least one, and a potential murderer on the streets. Yes, this seems to be a very targeted abduction, but you still have an individual capable of extreme violence on the loose." The thought that someone capable of such an act is free is terrifying. It is a reminder that Nancy's disappearance is not just a tragedy for one family, it is a threat to the community at large. The investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance is more than a series of reports and updates. It is a story of fear, uncertainty, and human resilience. Every day, investigators follow leads, question witnesses, and analyze evidence. They work tirelessly to ensure that one clue does not go unnoticed. The community watches anxiously, hoping for any sign of progress, and her family, despite unimaginable fear and heartbreak, continues to hope. While the case has become harder with every passing day, authorities insist that hope is not lost. Even in the darkest moments, one clue can change everything. DNA evidence, surveillance footage, or a single witness stepping forward could provide the breakthrough that finally brings Nancy home. And that is the hope that keeps everyone, family, investigators, and the community moving forward. It is easy to feel powerless when faced with a story like Nancy Guthrie's. The thought that someone could vanish without a trace is deeply unsettling. Yet, it is also a story that reminds us of the importance of vigilance, community, and perseverance. Each day, authorities, family, and the public continue to fight for answers. Every tip, every piece of information, every detail matters. What would you do if a loved one disappeared? How would you feel knowing that someone dangerous might still be free in your neighborhood? These are questions that every viewer must grapple with as they follow Nancy Guthrie's case. And as the investigation continues, more questions will arise than answers. Yet the one truth remains: Nancy Guthrie is missing, and she deserves to be found. The story is far from over. With every passing day, the investigation grows more complex. The pressure on law enforcement increases, and the hope of finding Nancy alive persists. Her family continues to hold on to that hope, refusing to accept that she is gone. They remain vigilant, patient, and determined. And the public continues to watch, pray, and wait for any news that might bring answers. As authorities continue to investigate, the public can also play a role. Any small detail, any clue, can be the key to solving the case. If you have seen anything unusual, noticed a strange person in your neighborhood, or have information that could help, it is vital to come forward. Every tip matters. Every lead could be the one that changes everything. The 45-day mark is not just a number. It is a reminder of the urgency and complexity of this case. It is a reminder that with each passing day, time is working against Nancy, against her family, and against investigators racing to find answers. Yet, even as the case becomes harder, even as frustration mounts, there is still hope. Hope that Nancy will be found. Hope that justice will prevail. Hope that this nightmare will end. Nancy Guthrie's disappearance is a story of mystery, fear, and human resilience. It is a story that challenges investigators, touches the hearts of the community, and reminds us of the fragility of life. 45 days later, the questions remain. Who took her? Why her? And will she ever be found? These are questions that demand answers, and the world waits for them. Authorities continue to work tirelessly. The community remains vigilant, and her family refuses to give up. The search for Nancy Guthrie is far from over. It is a reminder that hope can survive even in the darkest times, that even when a case seems impossible, perseverance, vigilance, and human determination can make a difference. As the investigation unfolds, every second counts, every lead matters, and every one of us can play a role in bringing Nancy home. The story is not over. The search continues, and the hope remains. 45 days later, Nancy Guthrie is still missing, but the fight to find her is far from finished.